For those who might not be aware, I was born and raised in Kenya. Kenya is a country in East Africa. Basic facts: the most powerful economy in East and Central Africa. That was right back then. Might be the same today, I'm not quite sure. And depending on the sources you're looking at, Kenya has 42 to 44 tribes. Now, tribe, apparently, when I was in university, I was told the word tribe is offensive. I was told you're supposed to use the word ethnicity, but growing up, we always use the word tribe, so I'm going to use the word tribe. So what tribe here means is that these are different cultures, different languages. So in Japan, I get asked this question a lot. So if you're in a different tribe from your neighbor, does that mean you both speak different languages? And I say yes. So is different language the same as a different dialect? I'm like, no. So if you have tribe A and tribe B, tribe A's language is as different from tribe B's language as French and Chinese, right? Well, it's not totally different with all tribes, but some tribes it's similar. It's more like Italian and French or Italian and Spanish. But with some tribes, it's totally different. Either way, so I grew up in Kenya in this multi-tribal, multicultural environment. I grew up in Nairobi, which is the capital city of Kenya. And I was raised in a part of Nairobi called Karen. Karen, like the online, the lady, the white lady Karen. So just type in Karen Nairobi and you'll find out what kind of place I was raised in. So growing up in Karen, Nairobi, I was surrounded by people who were not a part of my tribe, rather my father's tribe, which in fact is my tribe. So to explain this, I have to say that there are three large tribal groups in Kenya. We have the Bantus, we have the Nilotes, we have the Kushites. Now, under each tribal group, there are subgroups, right? And my mother was from the Bantu group, my father was from the Nilote group. And so, the Nilotes, as the story goes, we migrated from the South Sudanese desert into Central Africa. And the Bantus came from West Africa into Central and East Africa. That's how the story goes. That's what I was taught as a kid. It might be different. The story might have changed over time, but that's what I learned as a child. Either way, to be a Nilote in Nairobi, in Karen at that point in time, we were the minority. Well, my mother is a Bantu, right? My mother was part of the majority, but because you are your father's child, I have a name of my father's tribe. So I was referred to as Ruto. My name is Ruto, right? Ruto is a Nilotic name. Ruto is a Kalenjin name. So whenever I say I'm Oscar Ruto, people knew immediately where I came from. But I have another name, which is actually the son name. So my names are Oscar Ruto Chemlil. And as a child, I realized that people tend to quickly acknowledge that Ruto is Nilotic, but no one is quite sure where the name Chemlil is from. So I stopped using the name Ruto as a child. When people ask me, what's your name? I will never say Oscar Ruto. I started saying my name is Oscar Chemlil. Just so I can put some distance between me and and the way the Nilotes were othered by my peers. And of course, we were children. The othering wasn't really intense, not like there's anything wrong with Nilotes. It was more of like, Nilotes are just different from us. Now, I'm African, right? A Westerner might call me black. And I can tell you, growing up in Kenya, that this dark skin, I'm darker than most Africans. Yes, this is Nilotic dark. This is Nilote dark. And if you go to South Sudan, there are people who are even darker than me because those are like the original Nilotes, you know what I mean? So the Bantus, we see them as they're more light-skinned, and then you have the Kushites who are the most light-skinned. So when I speak of Kushites, you remember the three groups? Bantus, Nilotes, Kushites. So the Bantus are like, think of Ghanaians, Nigerians, that's like the origin, Nilotes, think of the originals as like the South Sudanese people. And you think of Kushites, these are the Ethiopians, the Somalis, this, like, you know what I mean? Either way. So being a Nilot in that environment of Karen, it's like, I got picked on because of my dark skin. It's like, oh, he's really dark. It's really hard for me as an adult to say what being picked on is. Is it just someone pointing out the thing that makes you different from everyone else? Because it's not really picking on, it's just pointing out a fact. But even though it is pointing out a fact, as a child, that did hurt, right? And so I assumed that if I disassociate myself from the Nilotic people, the being picked on will decrease. I did not just say it's obviously because of my dark skin or I was also a really fat kid. It's not because of those things, because I'm a Nilot and no one else around me is a Nilot. I mean, there were a few Nilots, but very few. It's like me and one other guy in the class, basically, in a class of 20 kids. And I remember this one instance whereby the only other Nilot kid in the class, right? He's a guy who actually, right now, he's a pretty well-known guy in Kenya, in East Africa, even South Africa. But it was me and this one other guy in the class, right? And he was from the same tribe as me. But at some point, he brought up a story, and the story was that our tribe, the tribe that he and I both came from, and another tribe, historically had a war, right? There was a war between these two tribes. And his great-grandfather was actually from the other tribe. But when he was captured by this tribe, which is our tribe, all you had to do to surrender was take grass from the ground and throw it at the warrior's face. And once grass is thrown at the other warrior's face, it means you are willing to be assimilated into the other tribe. So his great-grandfather wasn't actually a Nilot, but a Bantu. So he's not a Bantu. He's not a Nilot like me. He's actually a Bantu. And when I heard that story, I felt so betrayed. Like, dude, we were supposed to be the same thing. I was 8 years old when I heard this story. Like, we were supposed to be the same thing. Why would you tell everyone that story? It's like, of course, that story was news to me too, right? But no one else knew that story. But once he said that story, it's like it seemed to me that he was different now. Like, people accepted him more. It's like he was always a very charismatic kid, right? But it seemed, at least to me, that things got even better for him after he told that story. And so I thought, my great-grandfather was probably part of that war too. And so I went ahead and told the same story. It's like, yeah, my great-grandfather he was, of course, he was in that war too. I'm not actually a Nile, I'm a Bantu like you guys. I remember feeling like, of course I'm lying, but how do we know that he's not lying too? But so it's like, we are both lying, it's fine, it's fine. And as I tell this story even now, I recall that feeling of like, really wanting to belong. Really, really wanting to belong somewhere with someone. I wanted to feel like I was part of something that wasn't just me. But before I go on, even telling this lie didn't cure the problem, because I still felt so alone. I felt this emptiness inside me, like I was not really one of them. Because I had to change so much about myself so I can be. I wasn't even accepted, really. And this emptiness, it lasted for as long as I can remember. Like, to this day, it's like, for so long, I've always been the kind of person that wants to change myself to appease the other. And what I'm learning over time, over and over and over again, is that the more you do this, the more resentful you become. The more you bend, like, you can't keep bending and bending and bending just so people can say we like you, right? It's like, at some point, all this bending is going to break your back. At some point, all this bending is gonna break your back. And so what do you do when you start feeling that, the knots in your back are being too tight? You seek an escape. You start seeking an escape because the real escape is to stop lying, right? The real escape is to stop trying to please everyone. But there's the real great escape, and there's escapism. You have the great escape, and then you have escapism. Now, the great escape is what you need, but it's really, really fucking hard to make the great escape. But escapism is easy. It's one bottle, it's one smoke, it's one syringe, it's one video online. It's so easy to find escapism. And escapism slowly, gently consumes you. Now it's no longer about you trying to please people. It's about you trying to sustain this thing that is now slowly becoming you. Right? That first drink didn't define Oscar, but every other drink after that started to define who I was. Every other drink after that started to define who I was. All because I couldn't stop pretending. And I'm really enjoying doing this YouTube because this is a place whereby I'm just looking at my camera. I'm looking at my iPhone right now, right? There's no one on the other side of this phone. It's just me and my phone. This is as good as an AA meeting without the fear that might come from being in your first AA meeting. Just me and my phone. And if anyone else watches this afterwards, so be it. I'm not there with them to imagine the potential reaction to what they hear. So I can be myself here, 100%. There are no double takes, no triple takes. What I say has been said and it's done. All the bending will break you. Remember that. All the bending will break you. And what you need is an escapism, but a great escape. I needed a great escape. And step one of this great escape was admitting that my life had become unmanageable. Step one. Admitting defeat, that my life had become unmanageable. Jordan Peterson once said that as a psychologist or a psychiatrist, I always confuse the two. Psychologist, psychiatrist, I always assume they were the same thing. But he said that in his practice, he realized that people come to him because they have a problem managing their own lives. It's like, the lies have gotten out of hand. Basically, that's it. The lies have gotten out of hand. The procrastination has gotten out of hand. So people go to a psychologist or psychiatrist to find out if there's a way to deal with this problem. And the psychiatrist, like Jordan Peterson might say, one step at a time. It's like you're scared of doing this big thing. So he gave the example of people who are claustrophobic, right? They're scared of entering into an elevator. So he will suggest, step one, just look at an elevator. Just look at it. Step two, let's get up close. And with time, we'll eventually get you into the elevator. Right? In my life, once I had to admit defeat, I had to figure out what the problem was. So in Alcoholics Anonymous, we talk about rigorous honesty over and over again. It's like this program can't work unless you're rigorously honest. Sometimes radically so. You have to be at the very least, be honest with yourself. You don't have to tell everyone everything, but at the very least, be honest with yourself. And from that will spring out, all this strength to make that great escape. we have been, I have been lying to myself for so long to please so many people that it led me into this deep dark crevice whereby there was nothing else but the darkness. And when I was there, all I felt was anger and sadness, and I needed someone to blame, but the only person I had to blame was hell. Is to know that all the misery, all the suffering you're experiencing is because of you. All the suffering, all the misery you're experiencing is because of you. And sometimes even I don't acknowledge this all the time. I want to blame. It's easier to blame someone. It's because of my spouse. It's because of my family. It's because of my coworkers. It's because of my boss. There's always someone to blame. But the truth is, most of the time, it's just you. It's just you. And that sucks. That it has to be me. It's probably me, and I don't want it to be. I would like to be right every once in a while. Either way, for all of you men and women who have decided that you no longer want to blame the world, blame others, and you just want to be rigorously honest with yourself and have someone or some people who are willing to listen to you without judging you, without asking you to conform to some ideal, you will find that here there is a Discord server called This Is a Community. I will put the link down below. Please join it. Let us discuss. Let us be rigorously honest and try and uncover all these things that we have used as escapism. And let us make our great escape. Thank you very much.